Rastafari lives.
Yeah, Super Rastafari definitely lives for sure, man. So as we roll on here, we do have a special guest in the studio tonight. Soup and I, we're embarking on the what we call, I guess, the 2018 Virgin Islands election season. We did this back in 2014, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we had an opportunity to talk to everybody back then, and so we're doing it again this year. But we do have a special guest in the studio tonight. Let me put her on camera right there. There she is. Wave to the crowd. You are streaming out right now. Our guest tonight is Allison Soup.
DeGazon.
DeGazon.
You said it correctly.
Thanks for coming in our studio tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so we definitely wanted to get you in here. I know you were running for Senate here, the St. Croix district.
Yes, I am.
And we just wanted to meet you and talk to you and ask a bunch of questions and see how you what your perspective is.
Yes.
On the matters. So tell us, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your education, where you work at, your aspirations, and then we'll just kind of roll from there.
Okay. Good evening, audience. It's a pleasure being here before you. I love sharing my platform and just engaging. My name is Allison DeGazon, born and raised here in the Virgin Islands. I am a product of the Virgin Islands. I graduated from Central High in class of 1992.
Big up.
Yep. I went to UVI on a full tuition scholarship from McDonald's.
Okay.
And I got my degree in business administration and management. I eventually moved to the States where I furthered another degree in the Master of Science in Technical Communication. And then I had several businesses in the States, and then I came back home and I did my MBA here at UVI, and now I am part of the first cohort for the PhD program at UVI. And I'm also there on a full tuition scholarship as well. And so I have two businesses. I have Crucian Organics Farm. It is located in the Coble area near Frontline, for who knows that vicinity.
Mm-hmm.
And I also own Business Strategies. It's a process improvement organization where public and private sector reach out to me to help with project management, grant management, and just overall support where they do not have the capacity.
Okay.
Mr. Gazan, welcome to It's Your Perspective.
Thank you.
It's an honor to have you here.
I'm blessed to be here. Thank you.
What made you go into business? What draw you into business?
Well, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit.
Uh-huh.
From a child, I always visioned myself owning my own business.
Okay.
And I always had visions of me speaking to a mass of people. And I remember, now that I'm older, you get a chance to reflect back on things that God kind of placed in your life as you went through your journey.
Right.
I would have dreams of me, speaking to a lot of people waiting for me to make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Or I would wake up with an anxiety, like I gotta move.
Oh, really? Okay.
And the other day I was working on an assignment for school, and we have to journal and talk a little bit about our experiences we're going through. And one of them I realized is that I am never really satisfied. And so I looked that up, that phenomenon. I looked it up and I realized that true leaders are never really satisfied. So that kind of brings me here, to wanting to see more, wanted to bring the best out of people, wanted to help make the decisions that people don't want to make.
So you're talking about the decision to run for Senate?
The decision to run for Senate, in addition to being one of the decision makers, the policy makers for our territory.
Okay. So how long were you thinking about this?
People have been asking me to run from when I gave my commencement speech. I was a student speaker in 2014 for my graduation with my MBA. If there were 100 people there, at least 80% were reaching out to me like, you have to run, you have to do something, you got to get involved on a higher level.
What did you talk about?
I spoke about perspective.
Okay.
Isn't that something?
Okay.
I spoke about perspective and the fact that we think that people that go to school away or do things our way are better somehow than those of us who graduate from school here or choose to do things here.
Okay.
And I was asking the students and even the audience, challenging them to change their perspective and see how powerful we are here and the type of people that we are producing. And, I also tried to get them to understand that just the fact that you leave this campus, the work actually just began.
Exactly.
So that when you walk out of it, you're actually answering the call to make your environment better. And so for me, I was speaking to myself.
Right.
And so within myself, I knew that was sort of my answer to the call.
Okay.
And so I just kind of had it in my pocket about the Senate. I did not have a clue that so many seats would be available. That's just God again lining things up.
Okay.
Making it just a little easier. It's not easy. OMG.
Here it is. Yes, sir.
But it just makes it a little more easier to get a seat. And I think that the timing was impeccable.
Okay.
And so I went ahead and made the decision. I actually just one day got up and I was like, I'm going to announce this week.
So obviously your parents know, and did you talk to them? Your closest inner circle?
My dad, over the years, my relationship has grown. Even my dad and I have gotten even closer. You know, as you mature, your relationship turns into more of like friends. You still have that respect as an elder, but so my dad has always had a belief that I would do something big, or I would lead, or I would be at the helm. He always felt that way. And so when I told him, I called them on the phone because they were away for healthcare reasons. Another reason why I'm running. I called on the phone. I was like, Daddy, and I tell him everything because my mom will be like, girl, they're going to be so negative and they're going to talk about you and they're going to... And she did exactly that after I spoke to Dad. But Dad was like, I know.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. And
we support you. And I'm so happy. He was like, it's about time.
Okay.
So I do have my family's entire support.
Ms. DeGazon?
Yes.
Let's get right into the meat of this thing here now. As a person coming in, running for a Senate aspirant, running for these Senate, one of these Senate seats, what economic changes would you bring into these territory to make these islands be attractive to the outside, inside? Just bring more economic viability here to St. Croix and to the territory and a whole.
Okay, so you're asking me basically about the attraction of new businesses.
Yes.
I'm working on my PhD.
Okay.
And the program, what I am pushing is actually understanding or creating a framework where the government can use it that will enable the attraction of new businesses. It will enable the maintenance, the strengthening of businesses that we have here locally, and the startup of new businesses. So what needs to happen is that we really need to look at a lot of the laws that are currently on the books.
Okay.
Just as time goes, you change technology, you change vehicles, terrain changes, things change, you have to change. We don't go back and look at laws that are on the books to see if they are hindering or enabling the development or attraction of businesses.
So you've done a little bit of this. You've kind of checked into it a little bit.
What I've started to do is there's a group of friends that I sit with and we really talk and reason. And we talk about the economic picture. There's this one business, I talk about her all the time, her business, Neighborhood Pharmacy. She literally sent me her financials to show me what the gross receipt tax does to her business. And it's literally strangling her business. So we want to look at tools, instruments like those, and see if it's truly benefiting or hurting businesses. We understand that a lot of the revenue for the government, they depend on this gross receipt. So maybe there's a scale we can go on. Maybe we can look at it and look at the EDC, whom we are 100% exempt from the gross receipts. Maybe we can balance that scale so that we can have some relief to our local people who are actually residents and not just meeting a residential requirement. Okay, so those are the types of things that I want to do. I want to look at specific laws that are there and see if those laws are creating an environment that's conducive to growth or if it's increasing the number of businesses that are closing down.
Okay, but so you mentioned Neighborhood Pharmacy. So that's not an EDC company, is it?
No, it's not.
It's just a local business.
It's a local business. And she started it. She did get assistance through EDC to start it, EDA, but it is not. She's not an EDC business.
Yeah, she's just a local.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she was showing with the personnel tax and the gross receipts tax and tax on the items coming in, how high she has to price her items. So
just to maintain. Yeah.
And she wants to grow. She wants to increase her staff. And it's hard to do that because the money that you can use to help with job creation now goes into the government bucket.
Yeah.
And the reason why I have an issue with that is that we're not seeing the benefits of the tax money. We're not seeing the roads fixed. We're not seeing these things. So if we were able to see the fruit of the deposits, then I don't think we would mind so much because then we're equally putting in and building our economy and building the infrastructure.
Yeah.
But because we are in such a gap or there's such a lack, you begin to resent these types of policies that are in place that actually hinder the development of businesses.
Of small businesses,
Yes.
yeah. So as we roll on here, so what is your platform?
Okay.
So we're looking at the three main areas.
The three main areas.
Yeah.
Okay. And I like the whole platform piece because then you get a sense of the essence of Allison and really what are my pains and what I'm driving at, right? But I don't want people to think that that's all that I am. Because my experience and my competence and the education that I have had opens me up or makes me eligible or qualified to speak to many issues that our territory deals with.
Okay.
But for the sake of what I have felt as far as pain, so I tell people my platform developed out of pain. For example, farming. Agriculture is one of my platform points. I own Crucian Organics Farm. It's a 12-acre farm in the Coble area. We do not have water. We have other animals from other people, coming in and eating up our stuff. It's causing destruction. So we have to do the best we can to keep that going. It's hard getting labor. The technical expertise, sometimes if there's diseases or different things going on, it's hard to get that type of support.
Right.
And also to be able to move your produce really quickly can be challenging at times. Because the groceries, they already order from away. So if you harvested 500 pounds of pumpkins and they just brought in a trailer of 500 pounds of pumpkins, then you're upside down. And what happens there is that we are actually sending money out of the territory. And that should be money that stays in the territory and goes into these small businesses. Because remember, we seem to forget that farmers are businessmen and women. They're viable small businesses. So every time a trailer comes in with food, that's money that's taken away from the farms.
The local farms, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Miss Allison, how can you see this law being changed? I mean, is it a law in the book? Is it anything different that we could do to sustain the farmers to make this kind of be a balance? Not in itself a balance, but a equal amount goes to both person instead of one gain away and the next month his crop being stay aside. Is there anything there in the books to say, well, you have to do business with at least some of the local men them or anything like that?
Well, let me tell you, they are willing to buy because we have better shelf life, our produce. So if they have a choice to buy from us, they will always buy from us first. The thing is that we are inconsistent as farmers because the infrastructure is shot.
Okay.
So if we don't have certain variables in place to allow us to produce consistently, then they can't make their orders out. They ordered by the month or every other week.
Right.
And if we bring in watermelons this week, but then we didn't have enough water to make sure that our rotation stays continuous, they can't have empty shelves. So I don't want to make it seem at all like they just don't want to buy. It's because of the inconsistency, mind you, and it's not laziness from our farmers because they put blood and sweat. It's because they don't have all the tools they need to be competitive, to be productive.
So let me ask you this: so if we were to cancel all incoming trailers of fruit, vegetables, could we maintain providing as you as a farmer, could you maintain providing for restaurants and hotels? Or, I mean, would you have to double your farm? Would every farmer have to double their farm and grow more to provide?
All things remaining constant. If we leave everything as it is, there is no way we could just, right now, with the infrastructure as it is, we cannot do that.
Okay.
But it should be a goal, and we should have a strategic plan in place in phases for getting there.
Okay.
There's so many pieces when it comes to this food sustainability piece and the production. Let's talk about farm to school. That's a whole new, well, I shouldn't say new, it's a different area.
That's for the lunch program, the breakfast program?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the lunch food. So basically what we'll do is they've been meetings, and you know how we meet until we fall out. So what they were trying to do was come up with menus that are culturally relevant.
Okay.
And so, like, for example, pumpkin and your sweet potatoes and green bananas, these types of things to change up the menu. But, you know, a lot of these things need prepping, peeling, and so forth. And based on what was reported back to us is that the school lunch program, the employees weren't willing to do that because they weren't being paid for all this extra work. That was one of the situations. So I don't want to put it all on them too, though. It's a lot of different pieces to this puzzle.
Yes.
The Department of Education, you know, was on federal monitoring because there was mismanagement of the federal funds. So they can't pay a penny out until the third-party fiduciary checks and make sure that, yes, you can make this payment. So the farmers would produce and give, and they would not be paid for what could be a calendar year. Okay? So you can't survive on that. So this is another reason why it's great ideas, but if we don't have legislators like myself or policymakers like myself understanding the problem, then we can't drive legislation that fixes these things or really get involved with the commissioners to solve the problem.
Okay.
You know, another thing is we like to wait until the commissioners and they come to the well, the Senate well, and drill them. But we don't take time to establish relationships with them and go in and see exactly what they need to help in that area. You know, that's when they call you a super commissioner versus a senator.
Okay.
But I think there needs to be a balance, strike a balance between a senator should know what is going on the program level as far as agriculture and so forth, so that when you drive legislation or you come up with your ideas, it's actually relevant and it's practical.
Okay. Let me ask you a question too. You talk about, I guess, the agricultural infrastructure.
Yes.
What do you mean by that specifically?
Okay, so we have an overall infrastructure for the territory. Piece of that infrastructure would be the agriculture infrastructure, which means do we have technical support? Do the farms have proper access to water? Do veterinary services, we have a solid veterinary service set up? Abattoir, do we have that set up? Do we have some place where the farmers can bring their food and the government sell it to the government purchases it and then they distribute it to the hospitals or to the schools, to the elderly homes? We don't have anything like that. So there's no infrastructure to help these small businesses, the farmers, to get off the ground and become that economic cornerstone that I know we can be.
Okay. Do we have any money to do that? Is this something that we would get from the FDA or, I mean, the local government? Would they put into the pot to sort of develop this plan and then execute it?
Money is always an issue.
Okay.
And one issue that I have that I would definitely try to change is to allot more money to agriculture.
Okay.
I don't think agriculture has received an increase in their budget in years.
Isn't that like the lowest one?
I think it is.
Yeah, I think it is the lowest one.
And that in and of itself kind of tells you a little bit about what people
think about agriculture
in leadership think about agriculture. And so I just think that the mindset about agriculture has to change. You know, we used to be the breadbasket. A lot of people say that, but why? How? Because the leadership actually saw it as a viable variable to help the overall economy.
Okay.
So how you think, Ms. Allison, can we have this mindset? How would approach to the people to make this a viable thing to happen, to actually see our agriculture market come to some kind of fruition, to make it be more a more productive industry for everybody, for the locals, the government, the tourism, everybody that comes in here, that we could feed, or we could actually feed ourselves when these ships and planes don't come in here.
Right.
How can this process start?
You read something at the beginning from you said it's. I
His
asked
Majesty.
you what you were reading.
Yes.
I just love to read, and you said speeches, and you got me there because I love public speaking. In the passage that you read, it was about a commission, and you read where he was charging those at the commission to not take it lightly.
Yes.
And to understand the importance of being unified for certain variables in order to move the commission forward and to be seen as serious.
Yes.
The legislators, the senators, executive branch needs to come together and agree that agriculture is in fact an opportunity and not a hobby. Once we have leadership to agree that it is something that can create jobs, that can bring money, that can increase our health, that actually gives us something to export and reduce importation, that's the beginning. That's why I told you earlier, I don't even want to get into certain conversations until we agree that agriculture is important. How do we agree? Put your money where your mouth is. Increase the budget. So once we increase the budget, we can have certain things like better equipment. We can hire more laborers out of agriculture so that people like farms like myself and other farms aren't waiting 6 to 8 months to get their farms cleaned.
Okay.
You see? So if we're not we speak about agriculture, but there's specific steps that has to be taken to get it off the ground.
Okay.
And that's why it's important. That's why I know that I can be an asset in the Senate, because I will be a voice for the not just farmers, but for the entire agriculture infrastructure, because it goes beyond food, beyond the growing of food. There's so many pieces to agriculture.
Okay.
And next thing that's been very viable in this whole economic world that we've been living in is the medical marijuana and the legalization of the medical for recreational use.
Yes.
What is your intake on that, and do you see it as another viable economic sustainable thing that could happen here in the territory?
For me to say, I do not think the introduction of medical marijuana, hemp, marijuana as recreational use, for me to say that I do not see the benefits of that would be a complete lie. Because we've seen in other states and other islands where having marijuana introduced, there were some benefits. The debate comes in where some places you see an increase in crime and so forth. But we also have to find out where that information is coming from and what types of crime and what's going on. Like, why is there that? So I think that the type of research, the level of research I put into whatever topic I'm looking at is the type of research that we need to look at to really understand for our culture, our demographics, our size, would we still encounter those same types of situations? My concern for the introduction of marijuana would be that the local men and women won't be, when I say the local, like young men and women who want to get into the business to grow and make it a business, would not really get to, because other people would come in and hover and take it over. So I want to be able to set up something where, if we're talking about hemp, you should have had a farm.
Yes.
You should go to certain classes. You meet certain criteria. You should have been living here. I don't mean residential requirements a bona fide
By
resident,
resident.
so that the locals can truly benefit from such an influx of cash. And this is not something that's going to happen overnight.
Right.
If and when it is in fact introduced or allowed or it becomes legal, it takes time to set this up. What makes me nervous is that our government, we're not good at maintaining.
Yes, that's a big thing.
We're not good at maintaining. We're good at saying, okay, let's do this and get this, and then it just falls
Falls
apart.
down.
It just falls apart, yeah.
And that could be a major detriment to our territory if we don't spend the right amount of time understanding and implementing it correctly.
Okay.
So as far as, like, I can see the hemp helping the farmers. Like, can you imagine the exporting that's going to take place from there? I have friends and family members I know can benefit from the medical marijuana. I know. And it's not sitting down smoking a joint alone. You know, there's people who use it as oils and so forth that help with their different ailments. And anything that can increase the quality of life for a fellow Virgin Islander, I am for that. Okay? If it's for the major, the utilitarian, more the majority benefits, I am for it. But when it comes to the recreational use, I just feel like we need to do things in phases to understand. So once we introduce it, whether through the hemp with the low THC, then you go into the medical marijuana, then you go into the legalization. I think if we roll it out that way, chances are it'll be more productive because we would understand more as we move through the process.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question. So what do you think is easier to implement if you get into office? The whole your push for agriculture or your concept on marijuana and medical marijuana? What do you think is going to be a little easier?
It'll be easier for me to do agriculture because I live that every day.
Okay.
And that is in fact what
you do.
What I do.
do.
So of course it's going to be easier, but I'm not an island. So I plan to have for each one of my platforms, and I didn't even get to go into other ones. The next one is mental illness.
Okay, it's another hot issue too.
My nephew died from he had schizophrenia. And he developed it after a traumatic experience. So he was not sick all his life. Trauma is something that triggers mental illness, okay? So my nephew died at the age of 23. From 19 to 23, we suffered as a family in trying to take care of him. 1 minute we were his friends, the next minute we were the enemy. He was hearing things, seeing things, and he would have bouts of incoherence, and it was very hard to manage him. We went from door to door at Human Services, door to door at Department of Health, and when he go to the hospital, it was all about criminalization. It's all about arresting or shackling him up. I remember when my dad one day came from work and we saw him, how my dad got him and we went to see him at the hospital. They had him shackled. So when he comes to, he's confused, like, why am I like this? Because the hospital, they're not trained for that. So I want to see something where we can help for during moments of emergency. Right now, we need emergency assistance with these individuals. Remember, there are brothers, there are sisters, there are aunts, there are uncles. I want to see that when you have a situation in your home where they're threatening yourself or cutting themselves or trying to get you, we can call a specific ambulance, a specific group of people that'll come get them. And they know what medication works. They know how to get them out of that dark place so that they can become coherent even quicker. And to automatically register them into outpatient programs to help them. We try to say what's going on now is we say that they have to ask for the help themselves, but they don't think anything is wrong with them.
Yeah.
So if we brought somebody in for schizophrenia 3 times, guess what? They have schizophrenia, right? So I think that we should be able to register them and then work closely with them and their family, train their family on their triggers, how to work with them. In the States, I met families of people whose family members had schizophrenia and other types of mental disorders, and these people are working. They're productive part of the community because they had outpatient services and they had more funding and programs geared toward this. And we don't have to lean on the government. There's more than enough federal grants out there that we can use. So those create jobs because now we need people to work in these centers.
Right.
And now people don't have to be separated from their families, sending them away, and you don't know what's going on with them. So we just become a better hub for mental illness.
Is anything like that now, or this is a whole new concept?
No, it's
Nothing on that level.
Nothing on that level,
Nothing like
but
that.
Okay.
nothing.
And then we're
nothing.
seeing
you know I
more
know.
and more people
Yeah.
on the streets.
Yeah.
And I literally saw a lady that I went to school with the other day, and I pulled up and asked her if she was okay, and she started to flare profanity.
But you
It
know it
broke
ain't. You
my
know- yeah.
heart because
Yeah.
I said, oh no, here's another one. And again, I'm very specific. So I plan on having three groups, advisory groups, that I work with for my platforms. And the third one is small business development, but we went into that already because
Right,
I talked
that
about
was
it.
the first one, right.
That I have people that can help me apply for these grants, point agencies that are responsible to these grants, work with them so that we can come up with specific solutions that's tangible. We can see it, feel it, touch it, not speak about a resolution, so that in 2 years, when it's time to seek re-election and I have to give my report, and I can say, this is what happened, or let the people know what I did the past 2 years, I can say, this is where we are with mental illness, this is where we are with agriculture, and this is where we are with the small businesses.
Okay.
Miss Allison, how do you see our health system? Would you what would you do to improve our healthcare system right now?
Yeah, and sort of in general, because
In general.
the hospital at times
2
is-
days right now is a 2 day. First of all, 3 now. I think the hearing is 2 days. Once you guys say more than 2 days, you gotta go.
Yeah.
You gotta fly out here right now. So basically, we don't have a hospital.
Well, my parents, my mom was hospitalized before she went to Texas a few weeks ago. So you're speaking directly to another pain of mine. So my mom and dad are in Texas right now for health reasons, and it's the best choice. Now, mind you, we have a cardiac center here, and I venture to call it defunct because it's not operating the capacity it was created to,
Yeah,
which is
created for.
another habit of our government, which is this is the problem that I have. We don't have follow through. So there's a board. So the Senate can only make recommendations, and it's so much you can get involved. So anyone to tell you, I'm going to do this for the hospitals, that's not true. But we can influence and give ideas and hold them accountable. And I know that they were having some issues with getting reimbursements. So I think that if there's an issue, I think as senators we need to really understand what the issue is and find a solution, meet with the people, find out what it is the hospital needs, how can the government facilitate what we can do. And I can't say that there's senators that didn't do that, but all I know is it looks as though it wasn't enough.
Wasn't enough, yeah.
It looks as though it wasn't enough, because I don't want to be one of those that overpromises and underperforms, because the reality is I'm sitting on the other side of the table now. When I get in, and again, I'm speaking prophetically, right? When I get in, I'm going to be in that hot seat. And I may see some of the things that I didn't get to see on the other side. But at the end of the day, what I bring, the type of research skills and the type of connections and the will to not stop and to see something finished is what I think we need to move issues such as the healthcare system forward.
And as you say that your business deals with process management,
Yes.
you can also use that.
as
So let me talk a little bit about that. So I have a black belt in Six Sigma. And what that means is I know how to create a solution basically out of nothing. So if you have a company and you keep having the same issue, I can come in and in talking to certain levels, the layers of people, find a solution and implement it.
Okay.
So it's about implementation, and that's why the number one reason why I'm hired. It's because when I'm brought on, they know the job is going to get done.
You're gonna make changes.
I'm going to
and
make the
with
changes, and you
see it happen.
stick with it until it's done. That's why I believe. That's why I'm using my same Six Sigma practice even when I get in the seat in my seat. I'm going to have my teams who have the biggest voices, meaning the most knowledge, the stocks of knowledge, bring to the table. They're going to be people that we sit together and advise each other. Well, they advise me what legislation is needed, why this type doesn't work, why this type works, what we've had before, where we need to go.
It seems like you like think tanks.
Very much so.
All right,
You know, and the PhD program actually pushes that.
Okay.
Teamwork, project management. It's called, what they teach us to do is to defer judgment on every idea.
So you're going with a blank slate.
So what
clean
you do,
slate.
literally a blank
clean
slate,
slate.
and you throw ideas and you talk about why each one would work and why it doesn't work. And then the ones that probably scale the highest are the ones you're going to follow through
Right.
and implement. So yes, I am a proponent of think tanks.
Okay.
Okay.
So let me ask you this. So if you do make it in, so obviously you know that there's 7 of you guys here. And so at least, 5 of the 7 sort of have to agree that agriculture is the way to go.
Yes.
So, I mean, what would you say to Senator X if he says, no, agriculture isn't it? I mean, what would you say to him or her to get them on your side?
So
Because we know agriculture is the way, but you got to convince,
Ruby Rose, back in the day, used to talk about what she had her platform, right? And she always chose topics or situations that she can get the most buy-in. So she's not going to focus on something where people aren't going to go for it. I know people are going to go for the whole mental illness piece, agriculture piece, small business development. I'll be one of the senators like Ruby Rose on a Saturday morning to say, these are the bills that we have before. These are the senators that said they were going to run on ABC, and they're not working with us to get ABC done. You need to go to your senators as constituents and explain to them why you want this. Once you are able to show that the people want it, at the end of the day, each senator wants to be seen as a person that's for the people.
Being productive, yeah.
Now, it's also about supporting. I have to support them as well. Once it is something that is going to help the Virgin Islands people, the people of Virgin Islands, I will support it. So I'm not going to be all in my own circle, my own world. One hand washes the other in this thing. So I'm going to help push your agenda once it's something that is affirmative. I will get us in the right direction. I'll work with you. You work with me. You know what? As long as we get the right bills pushed, you don't have to say Allison did it. All we have now are happier constituents who aren't demanding, because you know what? The reason why they're asking for the reduction in salary, it's not that the Virgin Islands people really have a problem with the salary of the senators, The problem is that they feel like they're paying and getting nothing.
That was my next question to you, Miss Allison. I mean, how can I hold you accountability for what you say you're going to do when you get into this office? How can I hold you foot to the fire to say, well, you know what? You came in on this, and I ain't seen this done. I'm knocking on your doors. I can't hear from you. What will make you any different than anybody else that been there?
Your vote. Because at the end of the day, we've had a history of people not doing much and being reelected. So if we understand the power of that vote, then you're going to hold us accountable. Because if the word now is, we want to see new people, we want change, and we want all of these things. And the reason why they can say that is because they know they have power, which is the vote.
Right.
You hold me accountable by making sure that I'm either elected or not elected. So really, the accountability piece is really on you as the person that's voting. Because once I come to you, I'm not going to come to you and you're going to have to, I'm not going to leave it where you have to figure out what I did. If you have to figure out what I did, then you shouldn't be voting for me. If you have to figure it out, because I should be keeping you in the know. I should be keeping you up to date on what I'm doing. I should be on the radio the same way I'm out here campaigning. I should be talking to you and letting you know what's going on. There's social media, there's internet, there's radio, there's TV. I should be letting you know what's going on so that you don't have to chase after me and to figure out, was she productive or not?
Okay. Do you know anything about the reapportionment?
Yes, I do.
What's your stance on it? How do you feel that that situation? Is you for it or against it? You like it? No, yeah.
I am for reapportionment.
Why?
Because I believe in transparency and I believe in accountability. But most importantly, I understand why it was erected. It came about because of exactly what you asked me. How do you keep the person accountable? Who do you go to? If something is too hard, I could easily push it aside and let someone else try to tackle that.
Deal with it, yeah.
But with a reapportionment, I can't push things aside. I got to figure it out or be honest and talk to my constituents and say, hey, we got to bring our heads together with this because we're hitting a roadblock and this is something we really need. I'm not afraid of being at the forefront for an area. What sort of concerned me was having to have your the at-large for both islands and wondering which seat you would want to run, because campaigning is hard enough for one island.
Right.
That's why kudos to those running for governor and so forth, because you have to campaign on 3 islands plus the water island. This, I'm losing sleep enough as it is.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if it is going to push the Virgin Islands in a better direction, where the constituents feel like they have advocates, where they feel covered, they feel represented, and they know who to go to, I think it's a win-win.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question about, we're just kind of jumping around here.
Yeah, that's
me
fine.
and all that.
Y'all testing me, boy, but I hope I'm doing my thing. Okay.
So this question is on the whole issue of mental illness. So you said that you have sort of a plan or vision of how this would work, and you said there's grants that you could get. I mean, are you a grant writer, or would you have to hire a team to respond to grants?
Well, once elected, I won't
She
be
would have
a
that
team
duty.
because once I'm elected, really my constituents are hiring me. I see this hiring me for legislative reasons, push policy, to look at the laws, to be to understand what's stopping or pushing forward growth. My advisors, the groups that I'm going to put together, are the ones that I'm going to push or empower to help those agencies to find the grants and so forth. Finding the money has never been the problem in the Virgin Islands. It's managing the money and actually doing what we got the money for.
Right.
I never understood that.
In past elections, there've been a talk about a CFO coming into the territory. I guess someone to manage the grants or manage the whole money that comes in.
I think Donna Green run on that
Run
too,
on
right?
that, on that platform.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure how that whole thing went or how that whole thing will work, but what's your take on that? Do you feel that we need an office to manage the money, or each department is supposed to have a fiscal
A responsible person.
a responsible person to take care of that department to make sure that these funds don't be sent back, and if they be sent back, something is being done.
So the way the government system is set up is really set up to make sure there's no conflict of interest, and
who when?
listen, well, accountability as a whole, because each agency has a business office.
Okay.
And the business office, they're responsible for the maintenance of the grants. The directors and the program level people apply for the grants. The business office people would bless it, meaning review it, make sure it's correct.
Right.
But when the money comes in, it should be managed by the program and the business office. What I have found working in the government when I was at Labor is that the business office worked by themselves. So I used to be trying to say, hello, but I'm the one that's kind of using the money and so forth. You put that it went here, but no, we used it for this. But you're putting this, but it's not this. So sometimes what I'm finding is that the program and director levels are being shut out of the business office level with these grants. So if you're not the one using the money, how do you know how it was spent? If we're not sitting and meeting about going over my reports, how do you know how to answer the feds? If you don't know the program period that I really applied for, how do you know? Like, there has to be a synergy between the directors and the program leaders and the actual business office directors.
Okay. So you're
And-
saying that most
wait,
agencies
and-
are not like that?
That's where there's a gap.
Okay, that's okay.
And you have to read. That's why this whole electing a Senate piece is so important, because a lot of times you come in, but if you don't really understand the gaps in government, how are you going to advise and fix it?
Right. Exactly.
I know the levels where the gaps are. Then you have the OMB piece. So then you have the business person communicating with the OMB person, but they're not communicating with the program person.
Okay.
And who's checking to make sure that they're actually doing what they said they're going to do? You know when they come together? When the feds do this. We're here.
We're here. We need answers.
And as we are on that topic too, Ms. Allison, I'm going to ask you this question. The degree of separation in public corruption, and is there a degree of separation in public corruption and street crimes?
That's a big question. It's a big girl question there, isn't it?
That's our toughest question. So it's our toughest question for the night.
Crime is crime.
Okay, because
Crime is crime.
when you sit there, when you just sat there and you explain to me the divisions of government and how this thing's supposed to run, and it's not running that way. And as you say now, crime is crime. So now, I pick up my gun and I shoot David. I come in and lock me up.
Right. Well, they're going to ask you why and what happened, try to find out.
Right, okay.
They should.
Right.
Okay.
This man spending
Millions of dollars.
millions of dollars here with no accountability, and administration comes, administration goes. And we see no accountability, nobody gets dealt with it. Either they get fired or lose the job, okay. But again, we're talking about people's
Yes.
livelihood.
Yes. Just like the GRS issue.
So
That's a perfect
It's a
example.
perfect example.
You know.
We just move from administration to administration to administration.
Or from legislature to legislature.
So is there a degree of separation in public corruption and street crime? I just want to, what's your take on that?
My take is crime, and if someone is found responsible for gross negligence, I think they should face the consequences. Because like I said, the system, I'm going to get a little philosophical on you.
Yes.
Max Weber came up with the entire bureaucratic system, and the government followed that system basically to avoid people's hands in a cookie jar and conflict of interest. They standardize things, right? That's why you have 5 sheets of paper for one transaction, a copy here, a copy here, a copy there. What happened? What happened is that the bureaucracy was changed from what it was originally supposed to be to now into cover up. It was never, bureaucracy was never a bad word. It was necessary because of all the money and the services and so forth flowing through government. And so they had to come up with something to protect the people's money and to be able to make sure your unemployment check is ready when you want it. Your food stamp is ready when you need it. Your healthcare benefits is ready when you need it. So that's why it came up. But what's going on now is not only do we have bureaucracy, but we have cover-ups. And that's the issue.
Yeah.
So
Hiding.
which is why a reapportionment is a positive thing if people can look at it that way.
Right.
Because now you have a different level of accountability, and you can really point some fingers for
see where they-
to come in, so that now I'm forced to really get into this thing instead of just passing it by. You're going to hold me even more accountable to find out, well, what happened to the money that was here or there for our area.
Yeah.
You see? So
Yes.
Let me ask you a question here. So you were talking about there was a disconnect within like you mentioned labor between I guess there's 3 agencies.
yeah. And the reason, again, you have to be so careful. I am not trying to say labor wasn't doing what they were supposed to do. But what I was saying is, as a director and a person who's always looking for improvements, I said to myself, and I made a formal recommendation, that the business office and the directors who get the money should
To
work together.
in tandem
Okay,
together,
so I just
right.
use them as an example because that's where I worked.
Okay. But so in your estimation, do you think all the other agencies are like that too?
Yes, this is
So why is that? I mean, I guess what I'm getting is why is it like that? I mean, what
And
What
I
is the
won't
culture?
say all.
That's the
I won't
biggest.
just say all. I would say a
is
good
it-
bit of them.
And is it a culture that we impose upon
Because
us?
that's the biggest thing that people say. We get all this money here, and we have to send 90% of it back because it wasn't spent
It wasn't
on
spent
time.
right.
So
and used for the things they were supposed to go
be
for.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, the commissioner should have a good understanding of budgeting,
Right.
and we should be having regular meetings where we talk about the finances. And another thing we don't have on the jobs are project managers.
Okay.
Because truly, a project manager, which I guess you can say maybe the director is that, but the director has so many other things to do. The project manager would know the money that came in, follow through to make sure the program was fully implemented, report to the director and to the business office, and be that bridge. And as a process manager now, I see that's what's missing.
Okay.
But then, so now, all these are government agencies and government entities. So if they're supposed to be run like that and they're not run like that, what can be done to make it happen that way?
Is that legislation or
Just
everything-
internal affair.
Everything can't be
No,
legislated.
does have to be an
But
internal
that
affair.
internal affairs. However, these are the recommendations and so forth that the senators and they can put out to see them implemented, so that there will be more fiscal responsibility and more fiscal productivity as time goes on.
Right.
Because sometimes people just don't know how to plug a hole. And if you really understand, then you can make the correct recommendations.
Okay.
And again, it's about legislation, but not everything can be legislated.
Okay.
But
okay.
but people call senators for everything.
Everything, yeah.
So you have to be able to, and that's why I said, a constituent the other day, a supporter, asked me to what I should do. He recommended that I adopt an agency. And I thought what he was saying was correct. Basically, what he was saying was that if I'm going to be about mental illness and agriculture and small business development, then like the SBA, like I should be close with them. I should be close with Department of Human Services and other entities that
Right.
fall under that realm. And I should be close with agriculture. Really understand their nuances. So when I drive legislation, it's relevant and effective. And then look and see what other ones are on the book that needs to be revised.
Okay.
But then, I mean, the whole culture of this political culture here in this place going to have to change. And
But
that's,
you people are pushing reapportionment. That's changing the electoral
I mean,
system.
and that's the
so
key.
we need to change.
Right.
We are operating under the same system we did with Wang Louis and they.
Further
Sa-
back.
Let's go back. We
Further
are
back.
operating under the same system. Even some of the technology, the actual in the
Right.
systems, the software. What I'm trying to say is we need to become more technologically advanced. We need to be more forward thinkers, more progressive, and we need to change the way we run the day-to-day operations of the business, of the government. Before I decided to do my PhD in the economic development piece with trying to come up with this framework for implementation in smaller economies, I was wrestling with government efficiency. Every advisor that I spoke to said, you can't have government and efficiency in the same sentence. I'm like, why? You can't. Allison, it's just not going to happen. So by you doing that, you're like chasing the ball and you're never going to catch it.
Okay.
But there's certain things you can implement, increases.
Along that way,
Yeah,
along
along
that
that line.
journey.
But really, the understanding is that there will never be total efficiency in government. I'm still trying to wrestle with that because I think any entity can be
Of course.
organized.
If all the processes
I just believe it can. And because maybe I'm process oriented, I think that even if we break it up in segments, there is a way.
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
There definitely got to be a way.
Miss Allison, we've been hearing this story here about for the last 5 years now that this GRS system that we are working on is gonna dissolve in the next 5 years. 2023, they're saying it could be sooner. We don't know.
Yes.
When you get into the Senate, what would you do to change this process that's going on? Would you give the people them a 401k? Would you give them some kind of benefit? Would you give them some kind of different route? Would you even give them a choice Would you continue to take our money and have no representative about it? What's been done with it? What would you do to change GRS?
Well, again, being a senator, they have their board and so forth. However, the recommendation that I would make, I would freeze the system partially, right? What GRS did, the board did, first of all, GRS made very good investments. So the investment piece was not the problem.
Okay.
They also tried to correct the system by adjusting the tiers. Remember when we started paying a little more into the system?
Yeah, tier 1, tier 2.
Good job, because they tried to correct it that way. The problem is, where do they get the influx of that 1.5 to 1.8? Because I hear those numbers fluctuate. Where do they get that influx of money? And the reality is that money, I would fall out if I see that money appear. That money is not just going to appear. So now we have to come up with a plan absent, as though we're never getting that $1.5 billion. For people like me who are in the government less than 10 years, I would say what we do is we stop allowing us, people like myself, to pay into the system. Instead, we develop a 401k for those people. Then those that are paying into the system, that are vested, and those that are receiving benefits, they continue doing as they would, collect or put in too. However, the 401k would be a 401k that's split like this. It's very technical, so I'm going to go a little slow. You're going to have, what I think we should guarantee is that everybody comes out with a $25,000, $28,000 salary. You're going to keep you above the poverty line starting. So at least when you come out of the government, you're going to be able to eat and survive and relax, right?
This is your retirement.
This is your retirement, right? But for those now that are paying in, right, you're going to be able to access the market. And we will match you. If you pay $50, we'll match you $15. Not the whole thing, because we don't have that amount of money to match you. But we'll match you something so that you can continue to get some money.
Okay.
If you're if you're like some families that can afford to put a little more, you put a little more. So now you're based on the market. So now you have, so now you have chances of having just a beautiful retirement as you thought you would. Now you can retire with grace and dignity, and like you were supposed to
do, right?
So now you have your 401k. You know when you come out, you're going to have your $25,000, $28,000 salary. Then you have your returns from where we matched you. Right? And then you have your returns if your salary was enough that you can pay extra from the market. But we took the strain off of the system by just letting the adjustment in tiers work for itself like they initially planned to. I don't want to see any borrowing. I think we need to stop it with the borrowing now.
Stop it.
But this is the caveat to that. Just as we thought the government would take our money and put it in the pot where it belongs, how do we ensure that they're going to put the money into the 401k? See, now you're going back to the senators and they with legislation and so forth, right?
Of separation.
See?
Accountability.
Right? So at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And that's why it's so important you have to know the character and caliber and understanding of the person you elect for governor. What is their mindset when it comes to this? How did they flow with the GRS? What were they doing? Because it's a hard decision, because when you're low on cash and you got to meet payroll and you got to pay into the retirement and you have teachers that need money, God bless them, because I feel for the teachers. The salaries are
ridiculously low.
Ridiculous.
But before we get to education, there's one question I want to ask you about the GRS.
Okay.
Well, I guess one of the theories that could work, maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't, is to hire more government employees. So you have more people paying into the system. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, I don't agree with that, because then you have to find the salary to pay these people.
Well, this is sort of the thing here, because I see on Facebook that someone has been pushing this thing about the government's hiring, and they got hundreds of positions there, which is great. People are working. and then people are now paying into the GRS, but where are we getting the money to pay them? So,
well, I
mean,
believe I did a little strategic thinking.
because depending on who you talk to, the government, this government is doing well, and then other people are like it's not doing well. So I'm a little confused.
So I believe this is Allison's theory.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe a lot of those jobs are people that left after the hurricane
Okay.
Not coming back.
and not coming back.
So salaries
And-
are there.
That were there already and budgeted.
Right. So
That's what I was thinking.
that money's
theory on
already.
that.
So I said that money has already
There's
been
no new money coming.
Right,
There's no
right.
new money.
And some of them are paid under grants too, federal
Okay.
grants. So those are for performance periods. So it's going to be there for a certain amount of time.
Okay.
That's just my
thinking,
theory.
yes.
Okay.
Because I know it's not just a cash flow, or we have an abundance of cash flow
Yeah.
to hire. Because if that's the case, then we need to take care of the teachers and get them on step.
Yeah.
If you can find extra cash like that, then
Of
we
course,
need to get
bring
the
them on
teachers
board.
where they
They're
need
the
to
first,
be.
the
Yeah.
first ones to be taken
You know,
care of.
I have a real issue. I think that I have 4 children,
Yes.
and education, when I went to school, I think that we were blessed.
We were blessed, definitely.
And our children, you know, the Bible says you should go from glory to glory, which means we should be getting
we get
better.
Exactly.
So we need to pay these teachers so that they have dignity while and their morale goes up, so that they take more pride and they want to stay here. I am nervous about how many people are not going to come back after the summer.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be nervous, Miss Allison, because it's a reality of what's going on
So
here right
sad.
now. Because every school year, the teachers are just leaving in droves.
In droves.
Because again, they're not making it competitive. They're not making it attractive, and everybody knows that we live in one of the most highest economic cost of living
It is.
hemisphere.
It is.
You know, I just
It's
went.
an
I just went to a store. I just went to a store there on Sunday. One bag, okay, $60.
Of course.
The cashier looked at me. I said, "Sir, $60 just gone, just like that," and we both just laughed.
Just laugh. Yeah.
You understand me? Just
Yeah.
laugh.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, do you really get to bring the salaries of the teachers up?
And you know what gets me? Who says that all the teachers have to only be paid from local funds? It's the entire mismanagement in the education system why they're on this federal monitoring.
And they're one
Right?
of the biggest budgets, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
if not the most,
Most,
the biggest,
right.
probably one of the biggest, right? So my thing is, if we have more grant writers and people, project managers assigned to this money, we can get even more money and get an ease off of the government. We keep focusing on the local government funds, but there's so many other opportunities to bring funding in. And I know what I'm saying because that's what I did at Labor. I brought in money to augment my
What was
my local fund
Local fund.
appropriation. And so when the refinery closed, I was able to hire some of these people that they didn't have to leave and stop some of that brain drain. So I used federal funds for 3 years. Now they knew they were going to be working for at least 3 years.
Yes.
And even as I have left Labor, they're still there. Those who
Okay.
decided who wanted to
Wanted to
stay
stay.
are still there.
Yeah.
So we don't have to lean on the government. That's my thing too, is that I want us to get off of it
Right.
where everything is on the local,
Local government.
because the more we do that, then we can
The
stop
most
strangling the
strangling.
small businesses and so forth. It's a cycle that if we pay attention to, that we can surely fix.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. You mentioned a word earlier there, cash flow.
Yes.
And so, what are your thoughts on getting cash flowing into the local economy? Because, you know, tourism for years has been sort of, I guess, the number one industry. But in my opinion, we need more than tourism.
Okay.
You know, you go to St. Thomas, you know, some days there's 4 or 5 cruise ships over there. And here we barely get one a month.
We have a big to do when we
You
get
know,
one.
I know they're talking about dredging in Christiansted here, and that's going to bring in some of the small ships. That's all fine and dandy, but what can we do to get more money flowing in here? Because in my mind, I think the whole medical, the whole weed, marijuana thing is a way to do that.
It is an option.
You know, if once it's okay to do that here, I mean, I think people will just come here in droves.
Okay.
I mean, people are just like, let's go to St. Croix. You know, honey, pack your bag, let's go, kind of thing.
Well,
But I mean, beyond tourism and ships and the whole marijuana, I mean, what else can we do to get
our economy flowing?
kind
Okay.
of more flowing, money coming in?
Robust.
Okay. So value added is a concept that's usually agriculture driven.
Okay.
Value added.
Yes. So you have a plant, you can sell the root, you sell the leaves, you get oil from the leaves, you can make tea from the leaves, you have the juice, you have seeds. Look how many things you get from one plant.
That's
So the
right.
value add, you make jams and preserves,
Exactly.
one plant, right? Tourism is the one area we got it right with value added, because the restaurant makes some money, the taxi people make some money, the tour people make some money, maybe the museum. So we have I wouldn't say mastered, because we're trying to get
Right,
better.
get better.
We got that under our belt. We have rum. Do we have value added with that?
Nope.
No. We have we have ingredients that go into the rum. That should be a local business that's providing the ingredients for the rum. So then you have another business you can start here. Everything that the rum needs that can be produced here should be produced here.
Okay.
So that's not happening.
That's not happening.
Okay.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So for the most part, it's not
Right,
happening.
right.
Okay. Then we do not take part. Okay. So we have the EDA. We call it Economic Development Authority.
The authority.
However, nowhere else in the Caribbean it's called that.
What's it called?
It's called investment promotion. So really, you're promoting your island for investments, for people to invest in, to come in. The Virgin Islands is nowhere at that table. These are meetings, these are summits, not just to talk and say, oh, these are great ideas. Exchanges are happening. Come and see, we have this. And the goal is that you leave with at least this. Okay, you don't really want this? How can we work it out so that you can still get a piece of this? We're not at the table.
Why are we not at those tables?
Because no one is thinking about that. We just have EDA. And then you know why we're really not thinking about that? Because we're spoiled and we think about federal money all the time.
Coming in all the time to rescue us.
We have that. So other islands don't have that. So they have no choice but to get at that table and find the money. But because we know we can write a grant, because you have each agency has an overarching agency.
Yes.
So I always like to stick with labor
Right.
or Vitima, because they have FEMA, because
Right.
I was the assistant director there, right?
Okay.
So at Vitima, you're going to get money from FEMA.
Right.
With the government, with labor, you have United States Department of
Department of
Labor.
Labor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So really, they're not going to let you
Pushing,
shut
they're
down.
not kind of pushing to make
They're
it.
not going to let you shut down. They're going to make sure, even if it's minimal, that you are able to provide the services the government is supposed to provide.
Okay.
However, these other islands, countries don't have that. They have to go to the table and sell their products, sell their resources, sit and figure out, okay, y'all, we have this meeting next week. What do we have to bring? So they have to have these think tanks and then go and say, you throw your marbles.
Marbles.
This is what we have. Somebody's going to pick up one and say, I want that. That's somebody in your island. Then they will say, you know what? You have that? I want that. But if we're not at the table, no one knows what we have, and there's no investment promotion going on. So
Okay.
even on top of that, there's no value-added styles of industries here, where we can build off of already existing companies.
Let me ask you a sort of a kind of a maybe unrelated question. How many more hotels do you think we need here on St. Croix?
My gosh. I can't just give a number, but I'm going to tell you this. We are not seen as a place to hold big conferences and trainings and so forth because we don't have the
Space,
capacity.
to do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think whatever is enough to make us a valid choice for huge conferences and huge meetings, those national ones. I'm being a little progressive here. The UN and these types of,
Yeah.
I'm just speaking on
Yes,
those huge
definitely,
commissions
definitely.
that they can come here. But if we don't have it, if we don't build it, they won't come.
Right.
So I
Definitely.
can't tell you we need 2 hotels, Because then you're going to ask, well, how many room hotels and so forth?
No. What I'm getting at when I say hotels is
Just in general.
In general, we need hotels so that people can come here.
Yeah, I would
people
think we need one at least, the middle, Christiansted, Frederickstad. I would say at least larger ones that have conference style.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
Okay.
As a start.
Miss Allison, we are about to get into this hurricane season now, less than 3 weeks away, or whatever time frame it may be.
Real quick here, how do you think the governor did this past hurricane season?
That's another big girl question. Really?
Yeah, just I think he did well. I mean, I personally, I was here.
Okay, I'm gonna say this.
I think in general he did.
Let me say this.
Okay, but I mean,
as the former assistant director of ITEMA, I understand the intricacies of emergency management.
Mhm.
The governor reached out to every resource available to us.
Mhm.
I honestly I do not think he left any stone unturned.
Yeah, it sounds like he.
Yes.
I really believe that.
Yes.
I believe that when having FEMA here, he really pulled them close and took their advice and did everything they recommended. They got consultants and so forth here, and based on what we're seeing coming in, he followed the advice of the consultants. So we have all this money. However, the money is here, but a lot of it isn't moving because we remember they went into that whole piece where they wanted to be in first position, but that piece.
Yes.
Where, so your current liability, the people who you owe, we don't know if they're going to be an uproar. So those type of things, those nuances have to be fixed before money can just flow freely.
Yeah.
But honestly, I do think and we know for sure, he met with Carson. He met with Pence.
Yes.
He was at Congress and,
Yes.
I saw that they extended certain deadlines that they never extend. FEMA and the president of the United States extended them.
Right.
Okay.
Which means it was requested. And the request was strong enough
heard.
to render a yes.
Yeah.
So I would say within his ability, he did the best he could.
Okay.
And this is by me understanding
Yes.
and seeing it. So I have to give Jack his jacket there. I just kind of, for the sake of being a senator, you kind of have to be careful with the
About
whole
the words, of
governor
course,
piece
of
because,
course. Y'all got to work
my
in tandem.
supporters are all across the board.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to,
You got to work in tandem
Yes,
with everybody.
yes, correct.
So, again, the hurricane season is upon us here, 3 weeks away. There's certain things that need to get done, and certain things that's not in place, and the people them again kind of antsy right now. You being if you was a senator sitting on the seat now as a senator, what would you do here to reduce some of the anxiety and your constituency going forward?
I would be meeting with Vitima and the emergency person for each agency, finding out what were the gaps before, how have they plugged them for the future.
Right.
I would have FEMA at the table, and I would have some of the same consultants. And I would want to find out where we are with roofs to quicken that situation up where we get roofs back on these houses to code so that the situation isn't exasperated with the heavy rains. We just had some heavy rains the other day here, and I've heard that, it set back some people
Yes.
with their houses and stuff. So I personally think that this is where it comes down to the program level. So I would, as a senator, I would be calling meetings, hearings with these specific people so that I can assure my constituents that the ball is moving and being better prepared for this hurricane season.
We live in a hurricane zone, Miss Allison. We can't move St. Croix, go nowhere. This is where we at.
Right.
This is Campbell Carter, aka Bingy Soup point of view. Okay, there's nobody. This is Soup
Bingy Soup's theory.
perspective, right? When the hurricane passed, the morning came and they had us under the 2-3 days curfew. When we came out to come out, we had certain agencies in place, but our price gouging went up. They were telling us it didn't go up. I pay personally a case of water for 6 water must be $12, $13. It was some exorbitant prices that was happening here. How can we assure the people them that the supplies are going to be there in case of these things happen. We're not looking forward for it, but we're just preparing for in case. How can we make the people them feel more comfortable into going forward?
Remember I mentioned about having that meeting with Vitima?
Yes.
One of the questions I would ask is, what about our storage for commodities? Where is our water? Where are our food? Where are these items? I think that right now, we were looking, when I was there, we were looking, over by the Roebuck area over there across from the jail,
Right.
by EDA over
EDA,
there,
right.
to build out that area over there to be our commodity distribution, the commodity center to hold
Right.
it. I would be trying to fast track that to make sure it is filled to capacity with water, emergency items, medicine, and different things. And that's why I just believe that, we're kind of twiddling our thumbs, and this is valuable time because it's less than 30 days and we're entering June 1.
Yes.
So, but at the end of the day, it's so much going on. I know Vitima has so much. I mean, they have so much going on.
know.
But at the end of the day, it's your task
That's
and it's your
you took the
obligation,
word
and
right out
that's
of
what
my
you have
mouth.
to do. So use some of the funds, hire the right people, and get these people in place to make sure if and when the next hurricane comes, we don't have to wait 3-4 days for items to come from Puerto Rico, which chances are will be hit
They will
as
be hit
well.
also, exactly.
So I think that we should have been making sure our distribution center was up and running.
Okay.
Let me ask you another question here. Public safety, police department, and they're still under a consent decree.
Consent decree, yes.
I guess for some things that went wrong in the past. But any thoughts on crime prevention, gun control?
Guns coming into the territory
guns coming into
unchecked.
Unchecked. I mean, that's a whole issue unto itself.
This is what
And then police officers, the new cadets now get a raise. I don't understand why they couldn't get a raise for the teachers. Because the thing with that is, my thought is that some of these police officers are taking their kids to school where they're being taught by
Yes.
the teachers. And so
now
they-
I'm gonna make it more
So
money.
we need to
on them.
find out what was the source of funds for that,
Okay.
which is the same reason why I said about federal accessing other monies. A lot of times we're not properly, it's not, the explanations aren't clear as to where the funds are coming from.
Okay. And then again, to who asks these questions? This is the next thing.
This should, it should be the legislature, because really when it comes to giving a raise, when I was at labor and I got federal money, I was able to move my staff from $21,500. Yes, people were being paid that. $21,500 to $27,500. I didn't need the legislature.
Okay.
So again, the legislature doesn't get into everything. They are expecting that you take care of your people and you maximize the use of the funds in a correct way.
Okay.
But you asked me about crime overall.
Yeah.
I just believe that if we just beef up our education system where it focuses more, it make it more boy friendly, male friendly, and we get vocations in the schools earlier, they have a choice. Right now, when I talk to young men, they feel like they have no choice. They don't have a trade. They don't know how to fix a car. They don't know anything about agriculture. They don't know these things. From the time they're in elementary school, we should be teaching trades to our students, so that at the end of high school, or even if they, for some reason, because not everybody's home is conducive
That's
to
right.
growth, they have to drop out, God forbid. They
Things
have
happen.
something to fall back on. Then they can, if not do it from their home for themselves, they can go and work for somebody.
Yeah.
We're not creating a workforce for, if in the event that something happens, like dropout or whatever, that these people can take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And we're leaving everything, thinking everyone wants a college degree. Not everybody wants a college degree. Some people want to learn a trade and be just as productive, and it can be just as lucrative as those with formal education.
Formal educations, yeah.
So
Education.
I think it comes back to education.
Okay.
I'm gonna hit you with that now. Education is one of the basic needs of any society, for anybody for society to grow. How can we improve our education system here in the territory from kindergarten straight up to high school? How can we get an improvement of it? And one the interest is for the youths them to want to come to school.
Come to school, yeah.
I have a colleague of mine in a PhD program, and she's pushing creativity and change as in the education piece. And she talks about teacher leadership. Teachers do not have a chance to bring great ideas into the classroom. What's happening is they have a curriculum that they have to stick to. You know the Act 48, is it 48, 44? 44, 48, 44. It's the one where students aren't even being taught about their
Local
history.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about that.
African history, where they came from and where we are now, and how we evolved into our thinking and our way of life. There's so many missing pieces. We got to pay the teachers so that they have the morale to want to go the extra mile to teach these children. Y'all know our children aren't always the best behaved. I have 7-year-old twins, and I'm so glad in the morning to drop them off sometime just to breathe. But then I think of the teacher, oh Lord God, they have them till 3:30. And we don't take it seriously.
Yes.
So treating the teachers better, I think, fixes 50% of that problem.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Second, allowing them autonomy with the curriculum and allowing our children to understand more about ourselves, our culture, our islands, who we are. Help them to identify more with our culture so that, it just changes the flavor of the entire educational experience.
Okay. Let me ask you that, because it's 9:29.
Boy, and y'all had one after the next, boy, questions.
I got a couple more things here.
Okay.
The Attorney General.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, he's appointed by the governor.
He's appointed by the governor.
And I think a lot of people have a problem with that, because I thought the Attorney General was supposed to be representing the people.
And I think the VI is one of the most, if not one of the only places, or very few in the United States and the United States jurisdiction that don't have an election for the Attorney General and appoints it.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
What are your thoughts on that?
I personally think it should be an elected position. I also believe that the administrators should be elected positions, because the administrators should be accountable to the people and not to the governor. And the reason why I say that, it's not, I don't want to make it seem like anybody's doing anything now where I got that from, but if you look at the concept of it, they're sort of like mayors, right? If you really look at it, the people should feel that the mayor or the administrator, they're making decisions based on what's best for them, not what is the will of the governor. So I think just like the Attorney General, then even the types of cases that are pursued, how they're pursued, how much money you're going to spend in a case, the entire decision-making process for that AG office is going to be different, because you can be pushing the agenda of the executive branch and not the agenda of the people and really public safety.
Yeah.
So I think it should be elected positions.
Okay. One more quick question here. WAPA, renewable energy, wind, solar. Any thoughts? On water. I mean, any thoughts? People are still complaining about high WAPA bills, but now I think more importantly, people are complaining about getting these like extra charges.
And no accountability for what it is. And again, too, a next thing too that we have here in the territory that I would like you to address too, talking on that issue, is that the people has a concern. The people them has a concern. They're griping. They're feeling this pain, and then everybody just sits back and nobody says nothing. And then you wonder, you got 7 people here that you put in power, but nobody's talking to represent you. What's your take on the WAPA and then the people representing?
Okay, so the WAPA piece, we know that they brought in the alternative gas, the propane, was it the natural gas, right? And what I want to know is, was that truly a benefit? Have we received a report that told us we switched from this to this? During this period, we consumed this much, and it cost the people this versus what they were paying. I haven't seen that.
Okay.
So really, we don't even know if we're in a better position or a worse position.
I got you.
And then for the WAPA board seems to have some chaos to it a lot of times. And I believe too that there needs to be an independent task force outside of the Virgin Islands
Yeah.
that comes in and completely analyzes our energy system and the overall operation of WAPA to find out what's going on there. I'm not trying to say go see if money is being spent here or there or whose hand is the cookie jar.
Right.
I'm beyond that. I am at the efficiency and energy efficiency. That's where I'm about, because I'm concerned about the pockets of my supporters, of the voters. I want to make sure that they're not paying a penny more than they should be paying. And if there's a better way for energy to be consumed, a more efficient way that will save them money, I want them to have that.
Okay.
And so it seems as though, so first we need to find out the changes that we made, were they in our best interest? Once we know what that is, then if it's in our best interest, we'll say, okay, but we want it better.
We want it better, yeah.
Because, it seems like once we fix something, we just move on. We got to stay on top of the
Yes.
technology, the maintenance.
Maintenance.
Is this what they're using around the world? Let me tell you, the Angola dump, the dumps, energy, healthcare, these are all opportunities for jobs. These are all opportunities for industry. Because if we take move our focus to improving these systems, that's making the overall infrastructure for our territory better.
Better, yeah.
So we create jobs, we make the island more efficient, as far as infrastructure and the government. See, I go with the government efficiency again. I think that it becomes a reality.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. One more question. The word that we've been talking about is maintenance, and so the lack of, because we do things and then 3 years later there's no money for maintenance, there's no maintenance contract, and so one of the concerns that I have really right now is the governor is saying that we're getting this millions of dollars coming in here to fix the roads and all that. What's going to happen in 3 years if there's no money put into a budget for the maintenance? So in 3 years we're going to have the same roads again?
Let me tell you, when I applied for grants, everything that I applied for that was something like equipment, or even when I was at Vitima and we were considering getting a boat for the fire people, I remember one of the discussions was, if we are not going to have a maintenance plan attached to that grant, leave it alone.
Yeah.
So
Maintenance is so critical.
because we cannot use what we learned was FEMA was not going to give money for maintenance.
Okay.
So when you apply for your grants, you have to be smart enough. That's why you have to have, each person needs to know their role and they need to be experts in it. You apply for your maintenance plan in your grants for that, so that money is there. So, but a lot of times we just apply for the money to do something thinking we can use the money to do
all of that.
it should
And
be
don't
included.
think it out fully. They didn't think it out.
Exactly. And I think right now it's becoming a pattern where they're now thinking about the maintenance, and they're going forward. We're going to see more grants like that. But I know it's not a practice across the board.
Okay.
So, Ms. Allison, with this hour and a half, just kind of
just
wrap it up in one
one long winded sentence.
Okay.
Just put it all together.
All right. So can I look at the...
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Good evening, audience. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share my perspective on various topics that you heard this evening. I hope that you were able to see that I am competent, intellectual, knowledgeable. I have the experience. It's not just about being able to speak to something, but I did have my hands in very important areas in the government. I want to get us to the next level. My tagline is "Playtime is over," not really saying that people weren't just doing what they were supposed to do, but I think the overall feel is that people aren't doing their best. You deserve the best. You deserve the best from each senator. I ask humbly for your vote to be your senator. I'm Allison DeGazon. I was the director at Labor for several years for unemployment insurance. I was the assistant director of VITEMA. I am versed in grant management and fiscal responsibility. I would not disappoint you, and I just want to thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening, and I look forward to speaking with you all again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Allison. Much success to you.
Thank you. And, thank you for having me on the show. It was fun, question after question, but at the end of the day, you can't really practice for this. So I really want my supporters, or even those that are still deciding if they're going to support me, we need thinkers. We need people who have a stake in the game. As a farmer, as someone who owns a farm, I understand that plight. As someone who had a nephew who died from mental illness, I understand that pain. From a small business person and having friends who are small business owners, I see that pain every day. You want to bring people in, not just people who had great positions, but people who were making a difference before they were running for Senate.
Okay.
And I fit that bill.
Okay.
So I want to thank you for allowing me to put that out there. And I look forward to serving the people. And again, about the reapportionment, again, I am for that. Anything that increases accountability, transparency, productivity, Allison DeGazon will always sign her name to that. So again, playtime is over, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, that's right. That's what our sign says. Playtime
Playtime is over, yo. Yes, real talk.
Soup, any final words, man?
Allison, I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Rastafari live, one perfect love.
Thank you. And keep with those speeches. What you read was really good. A lot of people don't understand and know a lot, but I try to learn from all different areas because we can teach and learn so much from each other. So you saw even the speech the part of the speech you read today came right back to one of my answers that I gave.
So true.
True. Accountability. Yeah. So.
Yes,
okay. And we like to say one perfect love is our praise and his blessings. When you put it all together, you get one perfect love, man. So on that note, we'll be back on Thursday. We do have another candidate running for office here in the Virgin Islands. So we'll see you guys on Thursday at 8 p.m. Check us out on Facebook. It's Your Perspective Talk Show. On that note, we're out. Peace.
Thank you.